The audio that you're about to listen to was taken from our Instagram live stream.
Welcome, ladies, gents, and our non-binary friends to Spoiler Sleepover, a Nerd Camp Network production. I am super excited about tonight. This is going to be great. Last week was amazing. This week's going to be even better. And my guest co-host tonight has been doing double duty in the horror podcast realm just this week alone. So I'm not going to take up any more time. So I'm going to bring in Chris Obrocki. Let's get him in here. If you've been here since the beginning, he was on our very second episode, like our second episode ever. How are you?
I'm good. I'm in Myrtle Beach right now, which ironically, coinciding with our episode tonight, is an hour south of Southport, North Carolina, which is where they filmed the film we will be discussing tonight. And it's really hot down here, and but I'm ready to go with this. I got my you guys can't really see it, but I have my new tank top on.
Yes, I love it. Yeah, so we're in a storm right now up here. So it's hot, it's muggy, and it's rainy. It's terrible. I love it.
Ugh.
So you're in Myrtle Beach. I don't want to take up a ton of your time, but we definitely want to do this episode. So
we might have a little more time this evening than I thought. So we're just going to go with it.
I love it. All right, perfect. I actually took my hair down because I was like, oh, Chris is probably going to have his hair down too. My hair was up.
You know, it was down because I just got out of the pool and I had like these awesome like Jason Momoa waves going on, but I saw how it looked on here and I was like, yeah, no. And plus it's hot as hell down here. So no, up it went.
I went and saw my stylist and got an undercut. So
oh yeah, that's actually what all this is grown out from is an undercut. So
that's awesome. Yeah,
it's been a while, but we got it done.
I was worried about it. She was like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "It'll grow back, right?"
You're sick anyway, so you know you can have it down, and nobody's even going to be able to tell.
No, but let's jump into this. You've been on here before. You've listened. You've watched. So, what's been keeping you up at night? What have you been watching, reading, listening to, playing?
Well, as you guys know, I love to do my movie recommendations each month, and I put up my list of the scare fest of the all the movies I do, and I always theme my list. I do it sort of like a recommendation for you guys of just movies that I like, movies that I feel are fitting to that specific time of the year. And so like if you look back at in May, I had a lot of prom related movies because that's prom season. So I had, Carrie and The Rage Carrie 2, which is a very underrated sequel, by the way. I will be more than happy to talk about that on a future episode. I'm just putting that out there now.
I'm making a note.
Now we're in summer, so I just popped up July, and so I've just been going down my lists and everything, and I've just been going all over traveling again because I really haven't traveled in about 2 years. So I just got back from a mermaid event in Miami that I did not get to attend to last year, but I'm glad I got to make it this year. So, and now I'm here in Myrtle Beach because, ironically, to coincide with our episode tonight, I don't know if you guys follow the Myers House, North Carolina. They have their own branch of where they do these events called On-Set Cinema. And basically what they do is they organize this event and they take you to the filming locations of the movie, of a specific movie. And like, it's a whole big thing. And, oh gosh. So it was like one random day they put up in their story that they had secured for the first time ever to do I Know What You Did Last Summer. And it was only limited to 13 people. And you could only get your ticket if you followed the link in that story. And then the very next day, they took it down. So I was like, you know what? This is one of my favorite horror movies ever. And this movie really was one of the main movies that really got me really into horror and like really kind of solidified it for me when I was younger. So I was like, you know what? F it, I'm going. So, and then ironically, my best friend lives down here in Myrtle Beach. So I was like, all right, well, I could go see him. And then I could hit this thing on the way back because it's only an hour and a half or hour and 15 from Myrtle Beach.
That's awesome. So are you going to, all right, you've teased the cosplay a little bit. I don't want to give away too much, but did you bring any pieces with you? And are you stopping on the way back, or are you taking a bit of a trip to take pictures?
I'm bringing the whole thing. It's in the car, and this event is not ready for me.
No, I'm so excited.
I told myself, I'm like, you know
what?
what? If I'm going to this event, I'm going as Ben Willis. Like that, that's got to be it. And I'll tell you, I got real lucky with that costume too, because I was originally going to buy a duster jacket.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is like I was telling my buddy Ricky, who runs the Rick or Treat podcast that I was on about a month or two ago, and I told him I was thinking about doing this as my next cosplay, and he was just like, do it. Nobody ever does I Know What You Did Last Summer. So, and I was about to get that duster jacket, but then I went on our good friend Etsy, which is a blessing and a curse as well, because it gets dangerous on Etsy. And I legit found a fisherman slicker from the late 60s, and it was my exact measurements, and it was the exact same color as the one in the movie. And I was like, oh my God, like, what are the odds? So I bought that in a heartbeat. I had to do some modifications to it to make it more screen accurate. So, but I mean, I think I'm excited for it. I think it's going to look pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you've showed me a little bit. I got the inside scoop on some of this, so I'm excited to see it on you because all I've seen was the progression pictures. So
it's really hot. I need to, because that thing does not breathe. Like, that's a real legit fisherman slicker. So I'm gonna have to hydrate the hell out of myself all day that day. And the cool thing about this event is, like, all the parade and the fireworks that you see in the movie, they really do all that in Southport. Like, it's that big of a deal down there or up there. So it's gonna be crazy, and we get to go see the locations. And then about 10 o'clock, the hall where they have the Croaker Queen pageant in the movie is where they're gonna set up this giant screen, and then we're all gonna watch the movie and spend the night there. And it's like a whole big thing. I definitely
hopefully there's a
money's worth, which actually my ticket was a really great price too. I was very surprised.
That's awesome. So hopefully there's a dude with curly hair there so you can attack him in the balcony.
I'm curious as to if anybody else is going to be dressed up. So, I mean, I hope so, but I mean, I hope I'm the only Ben Willis there. So
that'd be good. Oh, Capital Merman just came in.
Yes,
look at that.
My co-owner for Merman Mondays.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm into horror things, so he knows it's coming.
Okay, so why don't you just go through your list of your movies for the month?
Oh my gosh! Oh crap! Okay, let me see if I don't have it. Like, they're all on my phone. All right, so my recommendations for the movies for July: we have 4th of July slashers. We have more sharks because it is Shark Month, and we have Nature Run Amok. So let's see if I can go down the list in my head. So obviously, kicking it off for this month and tonight's episode, we have I Know What You Did Last Summer. And then that I also have the 2019 film Crawl with the alligator, one of the best alligator movies ever done. It was such a surprise. And then I have I always try to throw an indie film in there. So I have The Bay, which that's a nasty little movie if you guys have never seen it. So that's why it's on the list this year. So, and then obviously Jaws and Jaws 2, because we're celebrating the 45th of Jaws 2, which is my favorite Jaws movie. I don't give a damn if anybody hates me for that. I will die on that hill. I will defend Jaws 2 any day. And then I also have the 70s classic with Sam Elliott, Frogs. I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, because we're celebrating the big 25 of that this year, if you guys want to feel old. And then I have Piranha 2, The Spawning.
That's a great one.
Then, of course, my favorite modern day shark movie, 47 Meters Down. And then I have another indie movie called Octopus from the early 2000s. So
that's fantastic. That's an amazing list too. I haven't watched The Bay in a while, so I might have to give that another rewatch.
Somebody else was watching it not that long ago, and they posted about it, and I commented on it. I was like, look, I assure you this does not happen in Maryland. I grew up on the Chesapeake Bay. We don't have anything like that happening here. So
I actually own Frogs on VHS too. So
oh man, that's a nasty movie too. It's so simple, but it's so effective. I mean, it's corny as hell. But
with such a busy week, I've literally, outside of I Know What You Did Last Summer, I've only watched 2 movies. I haven't even stepped outside and done anything different. But I watched Unwelcome on Shudder. Actually, both movies were on Shudder. I highly recommend Unwelcome. I really liked it. It's British Irish folklore horror. I don't want to I want to do an entire episode on this, so I don't want to get into too much, but they did an amazing job at making you think this was going to be a high art horror movie. So they misdirect you the entire movie until the last 20 minutes, and you're just like, what the fuck is happening? It is so good.
Oh, those are the best ones.
Yeah, no, it's worth the watch. I highly recommend it. If you have Shudder, watch it. And then I watched Brooklyn 45 because I read a bit about it. I was like, okay, it's a kind of like a whodunit with ghosts. And I was like, sure, I'll give it a go. And it wasn't for me. I busted out my phone and started playing games, but
that's one genre I have not tackled yet in the horror. I've been in the film business I'm a few years away from 20 years, and I still have not tackled a ghost horror movie yet. And I don't want it to be some schlocky, goofy thing. I want it to be I want to legit be scared. I want to have it be serious. And so yeah, if any directors out there watching this, if you guys have some scary ass ghost movie that you have coming up, I will happily go out for it.
You heard it here first. Let's do that. And on topic with your movie choices for the month, you put 2 Jaws movies on there. If you want to hear more of Chris O'Brocki talking about Jaws specifically, you can do that over at Camp Nightmare. They did this amazing episode, and Chris goes in on 2. So
I think Jaws 2 is super underrated, and it does not deserve the crap that it gets. I mean, obviously there, and by all means, it should not even exist. But because coming off of the original one, there's just there's never topping that. But I think the fact that it was sandwiched, you had these 2 disasters that literally came right after it, and everybody kind of forgets about Jaws 2 because they're too focused on 3 and 4, which are, oh my God. If you all want to see a dramatic decline in quality in a franchise, look no further than past Jaws 2.
Mm-hmm. So, that's true.
I think Jaws 2 is a great movie, and I think it's nice to see, though, that I retort my comment a little bit, but it's nice to see that it's gotten a lot more appreciation now than it did maybe 20 years ago. But no, it's a great movie. It still has the DNA of the first movie. John Williams came back and did an even better score, in my opinion. And I love Roy Scheider gives an incredible performance, and it showcases a little bit, as we talked about in Camp Nightmare, a little bit of PTSD, because I feel like that's what you would have after going through something like that. And I love the whole sailing aspect of it. Like that's something that really has not been done like to that extent since. And it was just something fresh and something different. And I'm a sailor. I've been a sailor since I was 10 years old. And I think it was just such a nice new added element to it. And plus, the shark gets burned in the beginning of the movie, so that gave it a little bit of a distinction, significant to Jaws 2. And
Oh yeah.
so there's a lot of great things. You guys go watch Jaws 2 this 4th of July weekend, or just this entire month for Shark Month. Like, just give it some praise because it definitely deserves it.
I honestly couldn't agree more. I do like the first two. The third one, it's not necessary in my opinion. But
yeah. Honestly, I think 4 is better than 3, and that's saying a lot. Yeah, but that's a whole other thing. We're here to talk about this awesome slasher from 1997, which celebrated its 25th last year. So, dear God, for all you 90s kids, yeah, we time's a ticking.
Yeah. Oh yeah. One last thing before we jump into this, you brought up the 25th anniversary of I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. If you really enjoyed this episode, come back because Chris is coming back to spoil the second movie on the anniversary. So we're going to be doing that too. I'm amped. It's going to be great. So let's jump into this spoiler. I'm fucking excited. This was a very easy decision to do this episode. After you came on and did Scream, I said, we need to do another team slasher. Let's do my favorite. And I said, I Know What You Did Last Summer. Your response was, that's my favorite too. And I was like, perfect. So movie opens with a mystery guy at the time sitting on the edge of a cliff playing with a necklace. We don't really know who he is until a bit further into the movie. Actually, not even until like almost the end of the movie, we don't really actually know who anybody is, which I think is hilarious.
Well, actually, I'm going to jump in real quick and like backtrack slightly on this opening because
The songs?
Let's rephrase that. The movie opens on this badass aerial shot going across the coast in the waves while the sun is setting in the left frame, and you have one of the best remakes of a song ever playing over the opening credits. Summer Breeze by Typo Negative is so significant to this movie, and anytime I've ever heard it, like that's all I'm like, oh, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and so yeah. I just wanted to throw that out there because I'm a big visual person. So yeah, all right, now we're back to the mystery guy on the cliff.
It's really funny because I wrote in the notes, I was like, best opening song ever, and just skipped over it. So yeah, we dive into that. The opening alone, like the intro to this entire movie is so fast. Like we meet everybody pretty much right off the bat. And yeah, so we jump then right over to a beauty pageant, and we immediately meet our 4 people.
The core 4.
Core 4. No, not again. 2 episodes now. We can't do that. Oh my gosh. Oh. All right. So, it's our Evil Dies Tonight. We're just going to use it in everything from now on. So we are introduced to Helen in the beauty pageant. So, oh my gosh. Sarah Michelle Gellar. I almost said the wrong person. But yeah, and then we're introduced to Barry, Ray, and Julie to one of the most awkward vocal exchanges between people I've ever seen in like a 90s film. And I was I always forget that that's the opening dialogue, and it makes me so uncomfortable every single time, where they're just like totally sexualizing her, and Julie, Jennifer Love Hewitt's character, is just okay with it. She's like, oh guys, come on. You're just like, really? That's your response? Like, alrighty then.
I mean, her and Helen are BFs, so you know what, if they sit there and they compliment each other's boobs, that can be their relationship. That's probably a key element to it. So you know what, she can go for it.
Yeah. And then we jump right over to the party that's on the pier.
Yes.
I don't know why, This is a shameful admission to a movie that I know really, really, really well. I always forget that it's John Galicki that plays Max because for some reason in my head I think it's Seth Green every time.
I mean, they're around the same height, so I mean, it's easy confusion.
And neither of them are threatening as actors or real humans.
No.
Like, and he's supposed to be this like kind of a jackass, and he just seems like he's real confused the entire time. Anyway, so he hits on Julie and doesn't go across well. Barry pushes him, which is also one of those confusing moments too, because the way he reacts, you think Barry and Julie are a couple, and then you quickly find out that that's not it at all.
Yeah, he's just looking out for Ray's girl.
I guess in a weird way, because him and Ray don't even really get along. Like,
Yeah.
just in the same circle.
It's an interesting friend circle. I mean, you get a little bit of everything. I mean, it's like, I want to say like it's not completely believable that these people would all be friends. I mean, Julie and Helen, yes, absolutely. But the guys, you can tell like they're kind of really only friends because the girls are best friends. So it's like one of those kind of friend circles.
Oh, exactly. That's exactly what it is. And then, once again, we then jump to a completely different spot. They go off to a beach and have a tiny little bonfire by themselves.
little nod there since Kevin Williamson wrote it, and we all know he did Dawson's Creek. So,
and then the four of them argue over a urban legend. Nobody can get the story quite right, which is just whatever. And there's more misogyny that happens, where just question the intelligence of Julie the entire time. It's just like, yeah. Then there's the extremely awkward conversation between Barry and Helen. It's not really a conversation, more or less like, I'm going to get famous, you're going to get famous, I'll let you impregnate me, you'll go to rehab.
Yeah, such a word, like a word choice, you know. Oh, I'll let you impregnate me. And like, who says that?
Nobody, except for Helen. Yeah, she also says he's going to play for the Steelers, and he says no, the Cowboys. And I'm like, I feel like Helen knows sports a little bit better, because if he was smart, he'd play for the Steelers, not the Cowboys. Cowboys don't have a great track record.
Agreed.
And then it cuts over to such like to me at least, it's the most like genuine conversation in the entire movie between Julie and Ray, and them talking about going to different schools. And
yeah,
you can,
and it's you kind of get to see a bit of like, you know, like Julie and Ray, and it's like they're the most kind of like genuine couple out of the group. And you know, she's upset and everything, and then, you know, you look at the chemistry between the two of them, and then you look at the chemistry between Helen and Barry, and it's just like these two are toxic as hell for each other. Like,
oh yeah. And then I just drawing a conclusion, I'm assuming that the two of them did it on the beach, because he said, "Are you sure?" Which seems like it was like a special moment, but I wouldn't want my first time to be on the beach. That just sounds like
everywhere.
Sand, yeah, sand everywhere. Literally. That's not a clean I want to do. Yeah, so all right. The big scene, the scene that lays the actual groundwork for the movie. I'll let you take over.
All right, guys. So obviously Barry has had way too much to drink, and Helen's trying to wrestle these keys out of him. So finally gets them, gives them to Ray, throws Barry's drunk ass in the back seat. So they're cruising down the road and everything, and they're just, you know, Julie and Ray, they had a little fun, so they're happy. They're giving each other little puppy eyes, and then Barry's wasted and decides, oh, I don't want to hear this like little Melrose Place, you know, alternative rock song going on. So he decides he's going to be a drunk asshole and change the station and hang out of the sunroof of the car with his bottle, no less, screaming, acting like, you know, a damn fool. So he drops the bottle into the car, spills everywhere, spills all over Ray, who's the DD, and they're all arguing and yelling and screaming at him. Helen's the only one in a quick cut that sees this, and they hit something. Car swerves, spins around. So Barry comes back in the car, blood all over him. They think it's him, and then he says that line, "It's not mine." So they get out of the car. They're looking around, they think, oh, maybe it's a deer and everything. So then that's when Julie sees the body. And they hit the guy on the side of the road.
She finds the boot first.
First finds a bloody boot.
Yeah.
So then that's like, oh, the deer thing, that's out the window. So now they're really looking. Then they find the body with Julie's big scream. And Barry, the asshole that he is, starts blaming Ray for this. And it's just like...
Yeah, not his fault.
Yeah, it's not Ray's fault. Like, Barry's the whole reason why Ray had to drive in the first place. So anyway, so then they stand there arguing, like, what are we going to do? And Barry kind of sobers up very quickly in this moment. And basically, Julie's all for, let's go to the police. Ray's all for, let's think about this. Helen's just kind of standing there, like, scared out of her mind and everything. And Barry's big move is like, you know what? Let's dump the body. Nobody has to know about this. And then Julie's so against it. And finally, he's like, you know what? This is your future, Julie. Think about this. If we get caught, we're done for. There goes your college. There goes everything that you have worked for. So then we hear a car coming up the road. Who do we see? It's Max. So they take the body, carry him onto the other side of the road. They play off the fact that Barry's wasted and he's puking and everything. So we kind of get to see a little bit of a dialogue between Ray and Max, and how clearly Max is, jealous because Ray's with Julie and everything. And Max has that line of, you can wipe that my shit don't stink grin off your face, Ray. It's so funny, but it's so accurate too. Like Max gave no F's in this movie. So Max takes off. He buys it and he heads out. So then the group we cut to the group driving down this like really deserted road, like one street lamp I think in the woods, and they carry this guy to the edge of the dock. They're getting ready to dump him in, and then all of a sudden Julie's like, wait, do we want to know who he is? And then everybody's like, no, we don't want to know who he is. Let's just dump him. Finally, Helen's just like had it with this, and she's like, Christ already, I'll do it. So they go to dump him, and he wakes up and grabs her crown off of her head and takes it under with him. So obviously, if they find that body with that crown in his hand, boom, who they going to point the finger at? Miss Croaker Queen. Barry jumps in, gets the crown back. As we leave the scene as the body is looking up at Barry the whole time. So they decide, they get back to the car, and they were like, we will never speak of this again. You have to swear it. Of course, our Julie is still hesitant, but she's just like, fine, we take it to the grave. So end the intro of the movie.
And we literally jump an entire year later, and Julie's at college with her roommate, who is a whole character. I wish there was so much more of her, because she's probably like my favorite person that's on screen. She's on screen for like 5 minutes, and it's such a bummer. She's just like, get your pacey ass out of the house. She's just making fun of you.
Julie, when we catch up with Julie again in college, like, you literally can see that PTSD written all over her.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she looked like death run over twice, ironically.
Yeah, and I mean, her hair even, like, I mean, I give props to everybody that worked on, like, just, like, wardrobe and hair and makeup for the movie.
Because job on her. Like, she looked rough.
Oh, yeah. So her friend drops her off. So Julie's going back home for the summer, and her friend drops her off at her mom's house, and her mom is immediately questioning everything. Like, are you on drugs? Like,
Julie's
like, no.
Like, what?
I just wanted a genuine reaction. It's just like, there's a genuine reaction. So then we find out that Julie's basically failing out of school.
Mm-hmm.
She's on like her last chance to stay in the program. Then she gets a letter with no return address, and she opens it up, and we get the title of the movie, I Know What You Did Last Summer. I always like movies and TV shows where they say the name of the movie, which I almost feel like they could have avoided the title of the movie because the intro to the movie is so fast. They could have like made that the title card.
They could have.
The 90s didn't do like the art title cards just yet at that point. It was more, there it is. All right, move on.
Well, if you look at Scream, though, like Scream 2 and 3, like they went like hard with them title cards, and I was all for it.
That is true. That is true. Who else? I mean, you go to like the Friday the 13th Part 3. Like,
Yeah.
those titles. Yeah. I mean, one of the, was it Nightmare on Elm Street? It was Dream Warriors. Dream Warriors has like the coolest title card ever. That one's
Dream Warriors, because it just kind of just fades onto the screen, and like that's it.
But it's the music. The music.
We'll see.
It
we're nerds here, but I've always said about the Nightmare on Elm Street sequels, it's like you were either Team Dream Warriors or Team Dream Master. So it's just like those are like the peaks of the franchise, and it's like you're one or the other. And I'm Team Dream Master, so I'm obsessed with that whole opening credits sequence about that little girl drawing the Freddy house on the chalk and the sidewalk and everything. Oh, iconic. As Tuesday Night Running from This Nightmare plays the whole time.
I have three. That's those two. I like the Dream duo, and then New Nightmare are the best in my opinion.
Nice. Absolutely. We're not even going to talk about 5 and 6. No. Well, we were here talking about I Know What You Did Last Summer, so that's a whole other tangent that I could go on.
All right, let's get back on topic. Julie is she gets the letter and then decides that she needs to go talk to, or at least find the other friends.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes to
first department store.
Yes, thank you, Helen. My brain was just like, what was her name again? It's Helen.
Yes, because Helen was supposed to be in New York, but she was not.
Yeah, she goes to the department store to get Helen's number in New York and ends up meeting her sister instead. And she's like, yeah, she doesn't have a New York number. She's over there. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like,
so then next day they go to Barry's house.
Yeah.
And it has one of my favorite lines in the entire movie because, like Julie says, we need help, and Barry, the asshole that he is, he's like, yeah, I'll say you two should check out a mirror. You two look like shit run over twice, and then Helen is just like, you're a prick. Love it, and the look
I do like
her is just it's priceless.
I mean, I don't like Barry. We're not supposed to like Barry, but I do like that shot of him being reintroduced with the low angle and him on the balcony. It's like, all right, and he's hot. We get it. He's attractive. Jesus Christ. All right, move on. He's a prick.
They go to seek out Max because that was Barry's favorite thing, always blaming Max for everything. So they find Max, and Barry kind of confronts him in the crab house in the freezer, and that's where we are introduced to our main weapon of the movie, and that is a very large rustic fishing hook.
Yeah.
So threatening Max with the fish hook cuts him on the face a little bit just to show how macho that Barry is, and then he takes off. So he gets back with the girls, and they're like, what did you do? And he's like, I scared him, and that was it. And then out of nowhere, boom! Oh, here's Ray, getting off of a fishing boat.
Yeah. Then we get a little bit of insight to, like, Ray does not know who his dad is.
Yes.
All he knows is that he was a fisherman. I do like a lot of these misdirects we get throughout the movie too, which shows. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a teen slasher, but teen slashers can be kind of smart.
And one thing I also like about the way this was done is that it just showed that, this horrible thing happened the year before, and like none of these friendships lasted at all. Like this event completely affected all four of them in different ways, and it's like the happiness in their lives are gone. Like the big dreams to New York is gone and shattered. The school, everything that Julie worked for in school is literally hanging on by a thread, and Ray just basically became his father, which he did not want to be. So I think this movie
And he was
did a very good job of depicting that.
Yeah. And I mean, he wanted to be he wanted to be a writer. And I mean, I know in my past, I had friends who worked on fishing boats. You don't have time to do anything.
No, it's rough.
Yeah. So then we cut over to Max back in the crab house with literally the most brutal kill in the entire movie.
Fantastic.
And comes out of nowhere. So Max gets hooked and pulled up. Yeah, right through the. He gets hooked, slammed down, and pulled off screen. It is brutal.
And we get first shot of the killer too, a little bit, just the silhouette,
which is daunting in itself. It's just amazing. So then we now cut over to Barry in the gym, boxing, and then showering.
Of course.
And he then finds a Polaroid, and it says, "I know" on it, which is he's now gotten his note sort of thing. And he finds out
a picture of his car that obviously was the car that involved in the accident. So.
And his jacket's missing too. He then leaves and is chased down by a car, and that scene is brutal in its own way because, oh my God, the fact that he was conscious after going through an entire phone booth or whatever a bus stop
on the hood of the car.
Yeah, it's intense. It's like really intense. And then we get to see the fisherman, and that is such a cool shot because it's upside down, so it's from
you can't see the face at all. It's just stands there. It's horrifying.
It's so good. Yeah, again, it's just compliment after compliment. This movie is so just perfect. It's perfect in so many ways. Then all four are at the hospital.
Yeah. So they're at the hospital, and now they're kind of all Barry can say is just like, I don't know who it was. It was just some guy in a slicker. And then Ray's like, well, that narrows it down. This is a fishing village. And then Barry is like, well, since you bring it up, we all know you have a slicker, Ray. And then the girls intervene, and they're like, this isn't helping us. We need to find who this person is. And then Julie drops the bomb and says his name was David Egan, and his body was found in a fishing net not far from Miller's Dock, which is the dock where they dumped the body. And she's like, he died. It was certain he died because of us. And everything. So now now that gives even more of a mystery. Like, okay, so it's, that was the guy on the cliff. So who is it? That it adds a good element to it. And then, so then the movie kind of cuts to Ray's trying to kind of come back to Julie and everything. And Julie's like, no, Ray, there is no you and me. So her and Helen go off, and they go on a little road trip because they want to discover where David used to live, or if he has any relative. So they drive kind of the country and everything, and they come across this Texas Chainsaw Massacre looking house, by the way. And you cut to this kind of grungy looking blonde woman who, surprise role, the wonderful Anne Heche, God rest her soul, it turns out to be David Egan's sister, Missy. So she invites them in as the girls play off that, our card's stalled down the road. Can we call AAA? Because, cell phones were just kind of becoming a thing then, but this is also Southport, North Carolina at the time in 1997. So cell phones probably weren't their top priority at the time.
No. I had actually written in my notes that house looks like the inside looks like the house from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
It does. It's one thing, another wonderful thing about this movie and that it accomplishes is like the color palettes, the way it plays so well with shadows and like gold tones, and it's everything has this sort of like dirty kind of look to it, and like it's like slick almost too, and it's very, they do a very good job. Like if you look at like this movie uses a lot of like browns and grays versus Scream the year before, that was a lot of like blues and red tones. So
yeah.
So anyway, so moving on from there, they're still playing off the whole car thing, and they gave each other fake names. I think Helen was Jodie because they were talking about Silence of the Lambs on the way in, so she's Jodie for Jodie Foster, and Julie's Angela for Angela Lansbury for Murder, She Wrote, which I love the little Easter eggs that are planted in here. Thank you, Kevin Williamson, for that. And so they kind of that they basically kind of see that everything that them hitting David with their car did to this family, and that just kind of ruined this family, and Julie kind of breaks, and then they decide to leave.
They do we do find out that their dad has died, yeah, and the mom was institutionalized after.
Yeah, take well to David's death, so.
And then we also find out that there was a friend that came by, David's friend named Billy Blue.
Billy Blue.
And Missy said she had a thing with him, a fling with him, which means Ray's got a thing for older women, I guess.
Yeah, which, I mean, we are thrilling things, like, so.
Yeah. Yeah, so the girls decide to go look for Billy Blue. Julie drops Helen off at her house. She walks into the house, says hi to her dad, who doesn't respond or react or anything, and then she proceeds to go get a Diet Coke. And as she's getting her soda, the fisherman walks into the house.
Yeah, walks right in through the door.
Yep. I mean, in small towns like that, nobody locks their door.
And
so
we have this like really good camera angle of as Helen's walking down the hallway, and as soon as she turns to go up the stairs, the fisherman turns into her bedroom, and it's like she just misses seeing him like by like a half a second. It's so good.
It is an amazing shot, and in all the times I've watched it, the more I watch it, the more you can tell he's rushing.
Yeah,
because they probably did that shot more than once, and they were like, "All right, move faster." No.
Absolutely. And Muse Swanson is a big dude. Like he's like 6'2", so.
But I can say, yeah, no, I wouldn't be able to move that fast, especially if I were that old. I mean, I'm not that old yet, and everything hurts. I don't think I can move that fast. I actually, completely off topic, I worked a wedding last weekend, and I ended up bartending part of the wedding, and we ran out of liquor, and I had to run and get more liquor, I literally ran. I actually ran. I haven't run in years, and the head chef saw me, and she's like, "Rob, you run?" And I was like, "No, this hurts. we need this." Oh man.
Anyway,
all right.
Back. So then we got the whole scene in Helen's room, and she's getting ready for bed, brushing her hair, and her sister comes in and basically is like, "We need you at the store tomorrow." And she's like, "I'm the outgoing Croaker Queen. I have to be in the parade. There's nothing I can do." And so you can kind of just see that like conflict, more of the conflict with her and her sister. Like they butt heads a lot and everything. It's not necessarily probably a great relationship. So then Elsa, her sister, kind of drops a little line there, and it's a precursor to what's going to happen very soon. And Elsa's line is like, "You and your hair, that's so pathetic." Yeah. So Helen goes to bed. It cuts to, you see the closet just cracked open, and you hear this breathing in the closet. Stuff of nightmares. So then we get this dissolve from night to day. and we're back in Helen's room as she's starting to wake up. The crown has been placed on her head as she lays there. So she pulls the crown off, kind of like, looking at like what the fuck. But then she notices a piece of her hair comes off with the crown, and then more pieces and more and more, and then she's just like frantically like grabbing, and it's just all coming out and everything, and she sits up and it's a big pile of hair on the pillow, and we see that the fisherman in the night cut like all her hair up, and like she has like waist length hair. It's like up to here now, so it's like Buffy length by this point in time. So then she gets up, runs to the mirror. We see the fisherman has written the word soon all across the whole mirror. She just goes AWOL and just smashes the mirror and everything. And so then it cuts to Julie getting a phone call, obviously, being informed of what happened now. So Julie runs out of the house and gets in the car, heads towards Helen. So I'll let you take it the next scene, because now everything's happening really fast.
Yeah. Again, I also really like the fact that because of the Scream episode you were on, when she wakes up, when Helen wakes up and her hair's like that, I was like, what is she, trying to be Gale Weathers? Like, that's a really bad hairstyle. Yeah, so Julie gets the call, jumps in her car, and she's driving, and she keeps hearing a noise. And she keeps, like, looking in her rearview mirror, looking behind her, and she's not...
Flicking, like, scratching kind of noise.
Yeah. So she finally pulls over, I guess, she gets to Julie's house, or she gets to Helen's house, and then gets out and opens the trunk to find Max with a bunch of crabs.
And wearing their jacket.
Yes, in her trunk. And she slams it shut, freaks out.
Runs to Helen's, and then comes back with them.
Yeah, opens the trunk, and the trunk is empty.
Super clean, no less.
Yeah, I mean, crabs don't, like, make a mess, but they were disgusting. There was seaweed and shit in there. So,
yeah, exactly. There was goop in there.
100%. And there's no way you didn't smell a body opening that thing, because that body's been dead for 3 days now?
Couple days, yeah, about 3 days.
And not to spoil the ending of this, but, like, I guess if it's kept on ice for 3 days, it might keep some of the smell down, but...
That's very true.
Yeah. So, yeah, Julie, like, really freaks out and is like, he was wearing your jacket. And then Ray appears again.
Before we close that scene, we have the iconic moment in the movie of Julie spinning around. What are you waiting for?
Yes, we cannot ignore that moment because they do it again in the second movie.
That moment was written in a fan contest. Yeah, I did not know that for years, and I recently found this out in an interview with Jennifer Love Hewitt. And she said they had a contest where fans could write in and have like a line of dialogue said by one of the characters, and that's the one that won. And she even said, she was like, I hated having to do it, but I wanted to make the fan happy, so I gave it my all. So,
man, does she give it her all? I mean, and that scene it's so iconic to the first movie that they do it again in the second movie. Like, I mean, different and wetter in the second one and a little bit more jiggly.
Yeah, it's a little wetness in the second movie, but we'll get to that in a couple months.
Yes, we will. Yes, a lot more wetness. So Ray shows up, and Barry does his best Barry thing and clocks him one, and immediately tries to blame him. Like, where were you? It was you the whole time. Barry just continuously trying to find somebody to blame other than himself for what they're in.
Says that he got a letter, and then I'm with Barry on this line here. He was like, "Oh, you got a letter? I got run over. Helen gets her hair chopped off. Julie gets a body in the trunk, and you get a letter. That's balanced." Like that's the only time in this movie I'm with Barry. Like, that was perfectly said.
I mean, at this point now, everyone's gotten a message.
Yeah.
But it's also another perfect moment of misdirection because we see the other notes and letters. We, as viewers, get to see them, but we never see Ray's.
No,
letter.
it's definitely trying to like set us up, like, you know, oh, maybe it's Ray that's doing this. Like it's a total ploy.
Yeah, very, very Scream-esque. So then Helen's wearing the most horrendous hat I've ever seen in my life to hide her horrendous hair. It's not doing you any favors. Like, just plain and simple, wear something else or put it up, which she does. So we then jump over to, she has to be part of the pageant again because previous year's winner has to be there.
Right.
And Barry goes with her to protect her and says, I'll be up in the balcony the whole time. I'll see everything. So she's sitting on stage, all dolled up. Her hair looks fine.
So, well, we still got the parade too, like prior to her being on the stage again. And that's when we see that there's a lot of people in town with that fisherman slicker. So
yes, and then she points out to Barry that she sees him. He's right there.
Yeah.
And Barry tackles the wrong guy.
No. But then later, as the parade rolls on, Helen sees the real fisherman ironically up on a balcony, and then he reveals the hook, and it's like, you know, oh yeah, we know it's him now. So
it's also the first moment we get to see some of his face because you can see his nose and his upper lip a little bit. So you're like, all right, he's a bigger guy, a bit older, looks a bit older at least, but yes. And then now we're at the pageant. I got him out of order, but so she's sitting on stage doing not a great rendition of and then she sees the fisherman appear on the balcony behind Barry and screams out to him, oh man, to try and warn him. And the most frustrating moment in probably any movie I've ever watched ever, she jumps off stage to try and go save him. And the entire crowd stops her. They just stop her.
I'm like, why are you mofos grabbing onto her? Like, get off of her.
Oh, man. And
that was your business.
Yeah. So then a police officer shows up and immediately basically just calls her crazy to her face and let's go. And they go up there and they're up in the balcony for like 10 seconds flat. He's like, look, there's nothing here. And then as they leave, the camera pans to just blood.
Yeah. Dripping down one of the banisters. Yeah.
So then it cuts to Helen being brought outside by the police officer, put into the back of the cruiser to be brought home. Like, she didn't commit a crime. It's not like a modern police car. There wasn't like an entire computer system in the passenger seat. You could have just put the previous year's beauty pageant winner in the front seat with you. But she wasn't going to do it.
Crazy. So, I mean, I probably would have put her in the back too.
That's fair, especially with that haircut. Jesus.
Well, by this time it was like evened out. So I assume Julie spruced her up before she had to go do the parade. That's what I'm thinking.
Good hope so. Yeah, nobody's gonna win a beauty pageant looking like Gale Weathers. I'm not gonna stop. I'm not.
At least you didn't have the bangs.
So the main road is blocked off because of the parade previously, and so the officer's like, well, I'm going to take this alley, which is never a smart decision or smart thing to do, which we learned in Scream 6. Yeah, the opening. Look, I'm bringing it back around.
I mean, it's Scream, man. It's Kevin Williamson too, so.
Yep. So the officer's like, as he's going down, there's a truck blocking the alley, and there's somebody with the hood open. The cop's like, well, I'm going to go help, and gets out, and it's the fisherman. And he kills the cop, gives him a good old hook in the gut. He guts him like a pig.
Yes, and you even see that like extra jolt too. So Helen breaks that window and gets out of that car. Just in time.
It was just such an awesome, like, I feel like if it was any other teen slasher, she'd be freaking out, pulling on the handle, trying to get out, and then he would smash the window and she would somehow get away miraculously. But no, she's just like, I am woman, hear me roar, and just busts a window.
Helen kind of like takes us by surprise and like jumps in there, and she's kind of a kid, like a warrior from this moment on. And then we have a quick cut of Julie on her super early days laptop, and she's looking up a news article and everything about Susie, about David Egan and his girlfriend was Susie Willis. But then we see this line, something she missed, and she said, her father, a local fisherman. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
So then we cut to one of the best chase sequences in the horror genre ever.
Oh yeah.
Like not to be biased here, I put Laurie Strode's chase scene in the first Halloween from across the street as like top of the line, but this definitely number 2.
Oh, easily.
And
yeah.
This is such a long, lengthy chase scene too. And like Helen is just she's running through the whole fucking town. And you just see the silhouette of that fisherman like a few yards behind her. Nice steady movement and everything. No hurry. Like, I'm gonna get this bitch no matter what. So I'm gonna let her get exhausted and out of breath. Very, very Michael Myers-esque. Good for him.
And his chase movement is very Michael Myers, and him in her closet and that breathing is also very Michael Myers.
So we get Helen. She makes it to, and by now, like all of the streets in town, like the main street, it's just like deserted. And so she comes around, like, I guess it's like maybe like the town square area, and which is where her father's store is, Shivers. And Elsa's inside closing up shop and everything. So she runs to that front door, banging on it and everything. And we see him coming in the back. So Elsa doesn't believe her, and she's like, what is wrong with you and all that. And Helen's just like going like ape shit at this point. She's like, get the keys. And so finally unlocks the door, and Helen's like, I'm being attacked. But we hear Elsa say really quickly, you could have just gone around to the back door. It's unlocked.
Yeah.
Another precursor.
Foreshadowing.
Another foreshadowing. So Helen runs upstairs to the office to call the police. So Elsa goes to the back door to lock it. Oh, too late, because before she even gets in the room, we see the door close.
Yeah.
He's already in. So we get her. He sneaks up behind her, slits the hell out of that throat. Just in time, though, for Helen to hear her scream upstairs. And it's like such a great shot of her, of like a zoom shot of her hearing it, realizing it, putting that phone down. And you have this very slow song playing. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. But it's so great. It's so fitting. And, we see him drag Elsa's body through the store, like with the hook. And
she's like, up off the ground too. I do want to point out that Elsa's kill is very Argento.
Yeah.
Like it is.
Yes.
The blood is bright red. It is thick as hell, and it's all you see is the hook in the gloved hand, which he had not been wearing gloves the entire movie until this one kill for some reason.
Yeah, that was interesting.
So I think there was just a ton. They were like, how many hat tips to other horror movies from the past can we throw in this thing? And they just did all of them. Like, fuck it, we'll do everything.
And now by this time, Helen's come downstairs. Still, her sister's not answering. Then the music cuts off and the lights cut off. And you just have the glow of the emergency lights. But you hear like the sound of the fans blowing up above. And it's like such a great tension builder. So Helen's walking past the covered mannequins in the store. And then she kind of turns and notices one of them looks a little bit off. And then all of a sudden it's like a super big like jump scare, and Ben Willis like spreads them hands open and lunges at her. She gets away, runs upstairs, gets in the freight elevator, and wheels herself up to the top. And he follows her up there, and she jumps out a window just in time. And then it cuts to it's like a double cut of like her running away from the store as Julie runs into the hall where the Croaker Queen pageant was, realizing she's too late.
Yep.
As Helen running through the back alleys of all these stores in town, trying to get to the main street because the parade is still going on. And we see the parade up at the very end of the alley. So she just bolts for that opening, and then does one of the stupidest goddamn things you can do. Stops. She gets right there, right at the end of the alley, right to where she can touch the parade goers. And she's right there at safety. She stops and turns around to check one more time behind her. Nothing's there. She turns back around. He's standing right in front of her. And then attacks the hell out of her, kills her right there. Nobody hears it because of the parade.
And that specific, like, there's a parade happening, there's an alley, there's a killing happening. That scene in this movie has inspired very similar scenes in movies after that. So many. They did it in Trick or Treat, which was awesome. They did it in Hostel. Hostel did it also. I love it. And it's the tire placement and the height difference. Like there's the tires that are blocking the killing from the road are literally the same height he is.
Yeah.
And all the tires behind are her height. So it's just like, if they were the other way around, someone would have seen it and stopped it.
No attention to detail.
It's so good. So we skipped over a pretty big detail. So before all of that, before Julie got to the hall, she went back to see Missy.
Yes. Oh my God, we completely forgot about that. Wow.
Yeah. So when she went back to basically confront her and ask more about her brother. The main thing she took away from it was the fact that David didn't have a tattoo.
Because the body did. And when her sister says, like, what tattoo? He doesn't have a tattoo. And she's just like shocked by it as Julie is. Yeah. Yeah.
But previously in the movie, there's also the fact that we find out David was heartbroken because he was in a car accident that his fiance died in. And the name on the tattoo was the fiance's name, his fiance's name. So that's when she pieces it together that it's not David because he doesn't have the tattoo. It's the fiance. It's her dad.
Yeah.
Susie was her name.
Yes.
I was like, I wrote it down because I was like, this is important. I need to write this down.
We completely blew over it.
Yeah.
All right.
So
we're getting near the end of the movie now. So getting towards the climax.
Yes. Now Helen's dead. Ray is dead.
Barry's
Max dead. Barry's dead. Sorry.
Yeah, Barry's dead. Max is dead. Elsa's dead. So.
Well, the cop, but that doesn't matter.
Well,
whatever.
Yeah.
This my only gripe with this movie. Like, I get the cop being killed. What was the purpose of killing Max?
Yeah. Maybe Ben Willis probably thought he might be snooping around or poking around because he was chasing after Julie quite a bit in the beginning of the movie. So, like, let me get this mofo out of the way.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair point. So, pretty much at this point, Julie goes to try and find Ray.
Yeah.
And
tell him that, excuse me, sorry. I figured it out.
Yep. Finds out that he's on a boat, gets to the boat to go warn him, and you get that moment where you're like, yes, he reaches his hand out and she grabs his hand and you're like, it's going to happen. And then she sees that the name of the boat is Billy Blue and she pieces it together.
You went to Missy's and you're the fisherman.
Yep.
And so she takes off.
And as he takes off after her, and as he's running after her, he gets fucking clotheslined by a guy in shadow. And she's like, he's coming after me. He's like, get on the boat. So she just jumps on some strange dude's boat.
Yeah.
You don't do that. So she gets on the boat and goes down a level before this stranger gets on and looks into the sleeping quarters and immediately notices that there are photographs of her and her friends all over
Her
the place.
hat, her hat that was in the car,
Yep.
and
And
other little knickknacks.
Barry's jacket.
Yep.
So he walks onto the boat and just goes, "Are you in trouble?" And she's like, "Yeah," kind of like tries to play it off, which is like smart move. Good job, Julie, using your noggin. And then takes off. Like the jig is up. She confronts him, and then he takes the boat. He had already taken the tie off of the dock, and they take off. Ray jumps into a motorboat, scooter, whatever you want to call it, and takes off after them, which is kind of dope and pretty badass. Like he just rides up on the side of the boat and jumps out while they're both moving.
Yeah.
And he's onto the side of the boat. You're like, all right, Ray, dude.
Like the only cool thing you've done this whole movie. So, all right.
Yeah. It's weird to me because, like, at that time, Freddie Prinze Jr. was like the shit. He was the heartthrob. I mean, the whole movie was filled with heartthrobs, male and female alike. And you would have thought he would have had more of like main character vibe, but he's very much not main character.
Right. Well, and I feel like that's why they did that on purpose too. Like they wanted him to look like the red herring and everything. So then they kind of kept him away from the group and at an arm's length. So speaking of arms,
Yes.
let's move
So,
on to what's happening next on the boat. It's getting crazy now.
Ray jumps onto the boat, and it's just this Scooby-Doo chase sequence between Julie and the fisherman, who we now know is Ben Willis, and they're just chasing each other around. She jumps down into a grate underneath the boat where on a fishing boat there's an area where you dump your catch to keep it all together and fresh in one spot. So she jumps down there.
Lots of ice.
Yes. And while she's doing that, Ray is now distracting Ben, the fisherman, trying to get him away from her. While she's down there in the ice, she finds Helen's body and Max's body's down there too. And
And Barry's,
Barry. So she finds all the bodies on ice down there. And there's Ray gets lucky. They both get pretty lucky. Ben ends up actually capturing Julie, has the hook, and for some reason he reaches way back and gets his hand caught in rope
rigging.
Yeah.
So Ray, being a fisherman himself now, knows what that knows how to work the gears. Hits the gear, the rope clamps around his hand, hauls him all the way up to the top of the mast, and because it's so fast, that rope slices right through his hand.
Yep.
So cuts that hand right off, and Ben falls in the water.
He gets thrown into the ocean. Before the hand gets lobbed off, right before his hand even gets caught, he says, "Next time you kill somebody, make sure they're all the way dead."
Yeah.
He gets his hand lobbed off and then just tossed into the ocean, and they're just like, "Yeah, we're fine." Like,
and the cops
he's gone.
Questioning them back at the dock, and he's like, would you have any idea why this man would want to kill you? And they kind of look at each other and they're like, no
idea.
So then we cut to another year later.
Yes. And we get Julie back at school,
looking amazing now,
in a towel, about to you have to, and she's on the phone with Ray, and we don't hear Ray, but it's all
clearly they've reconciled and they're back together again and all that. So,
and somebody calls out to Julie, says, "You got a letter." So she walks out of the shower area and sees a letter that looks pretty close to the one from a year prior, and opens it up, and it's an invitation to a party. It's nothing. It's not bad. You're like, oh, all right, everything's fine. So then she walks back into the shower room. It's all foggy, and as she breaks through the fog, written on on the glass door, it says, "I still know." And you're like, oh shit, okay. And it's a fake out ending too, which is even better because you're like, okay, this is it. And then it cuts back to the door, and the fisherman just busts through the glass.
And cut to credits and the Hush song.
Oh, it's so good. I'm not a fan of jump scares. Like I just don't like them. I think that it's poor writing, but this whole movie is so amazingly well written.
It used them very well and very tastefully.
100%, and they don't overuse it at all throughout this movie. And that jump scare is the best jump scare ending to a movie you could ever do.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So good, yeah, guys. That's I Know What You Did Last Summer. If you're watching this episode, you better have seen it because we just spoiled it for you.
Yeah. So we do have some viewers and listeners who don't like horror, like don't want to watch it because they're too scared. So they watch this and listen to this so that they can feel like they've watched it. And if it comes up to a conversation, they can be like, actually, not only do I know about the movie, I know this little tidbit, which is pretty great.
And now let's just talk about like how like the impact this movie had, and like I mean not only just in the horror genre, but I mean like how we personally it impacted us.
Yeah. So I mean, going back to my childhood, I'll real briefly. The first horror movie I ever saw was Hellraiser. So that like kind of like set a bar.
Went hard right out the gate.
Oh yeah. I Know What You Did Last Summer the year after. I saw it in '98, rented it from Blockbuster.
I saw it.
You saw it in theaters?
I had to sneak into it. I remember I bought a ticket. Me and my friends bought a ticket for the Kevin Kline movie In and Out.
Yes.
And because we looked, and ironically, I would later go on to work at this movie theater. So, but we looked ahead and we saw that In and Out was at the theater. Like I Know What You Did Last Summer was in the big theater, like all the way in the back. In and Out was right next to it. So we bought tickets for that, and then we snuck into I Know What You Did Last Summer. Like right before it started, they never found us.
That's perfect.
So I did get to experience this in the theater.
There you go. I did that with, I'm pretty sure it was the first Saw movie, because it came out like the week, I think it was the week I turned 17, it came out.
Which that's going to be celebrating its big 20 next year.
No, and we got 10 coming out.
I know.
I'm so excited.
So excited. But that'll be a whole other episode. We're going to finish off our good friend, I know, for the evening.
Yeah, no, it definitely, it opened up the gates for me to seek out more teen slashers. I didn't have an interest in teen slashers at all. I didn't watch, we discussed this on the Scream episode, but like Scream never really caught my interest. Like it wasn't anything that I was like, oh, I want to see this. Like as having Hellraiser be the first horror movie I saw, followed right after that, I saw John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh yes, then you had like the bar set like sky high for you right away.
Oh, yeah. But this changed my mind. The only reason I rented this movie and saw it was because Jennifer Love Hewitt was my first crush.
Of course.
And it wasn't the developed Jennifer Love Hewitt. I'm going to date myself real quick. I had a crush on her when she was on a little show called Kids Incorporated.
Yes.
It was the voice and her personality, the way she sang, that stole my heart. I was just like, I have a crush on this girl. That was it. And then as she got older, the crush never went away. And now she's on TV again. So. Yeah, she does. She looks amazing. But it blew my mind. I was like, wait, a teen slasher can be smart, can be well written, well directed, have a good soundtrack, keep you on the edge of your seat the entire time. Like this was, I've lost count how many times I've watched this. Me watching it again. Keep this in mind. I watched it again today. I watched it last month.
All right. I'm probably going to watch it tonight, and then I'm going to watch it again on the 4th of July on location.
I'm so jealous. You better be sending me pictures on the floor.
I'm going to take so many videos, and I may even go live. We don't know, but I just know I'm excited to debut that costume, and I'm also going to roast to death in it. So stand by.
Get some of those little fans, and then like a belt, and just put them in so they're all just blowing straight up on you.
Yeah. but we're gonna get to go to all the locations. Like we're gonna get to see Julie's house, and we're gonna get to see Shivers department store, and we're gonna go to the Croker Queen Hall, and it's gonna be so great. I don't think it's like really hit me yet that I'm like gonna be doing this, like, because this, like, to me, this is like, wow, I'm spending 4th of July literally living in this movie that is on the 4th of July, and this movie that had such an impact on my childhood and made me played a huge role in me becoming the big horror fanatic that I am. And it's just, and it actually, looking back at it, this movie kind of aided a little bit to me kind of getting into writing in the early days, because my friends and I that went to see this, we were so obsessed with it for so many years. I mean, I still am. So, and I wanted to write like our own movie, like our own story of it. And so instead of I Know What You Did Last Summer, it was I Know What You Did Last Spring, and it was spring break. And of course, I based all of our characters off of us and everything. I never fully finished it. I have it somewhere. I'll have to find it. And that way when we do the episode for I Still Know, hopefully I have it and I'll like bust it out. So I have to look for it. But even then, that was like my first dab in like writing because of this movie.
First of all, you need to finish that, and you got to just bring it to Fuzzy Monkey and be like, look, just hear me out.
Oh my God.
I'll come on. I'll do whatever you need me to do in the movie. I don't give a shit.
My killer was very colorful, I would say.
Your killer is colorful?
Yeah, my killer in my story was very colorful. It was like green and black and orange and yellow, and like I don't know what the hell I was thinking, but
I mean, I'm here for it. Spring colors work perfect for Midsommar, so who knows? By the way, that is a future episode. I
feel like that's my mom's current favorite movie right now. See, sometimes she surprises me. So, and also shout out to my mom. Hey, Mom. But yeah, this movie just had such a great impact on my love for horror, and really like the same thing you said, like slashers can be smart. The characters can be smart. It can have a great soundtrack. It can have a great killer. It can be like, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier before I jump off of here. It's just like this movie does so good in playing with shadows, and it's so different. It definitely sets itself apart from the more colorfulness of Scream and even Urban Legend too. Like I look at like the 90s slasher craze. It's like there's the top three, and it's Scream, I Know, and then Urban Legend. Like those are the big three. And obviously Urban Legend, it got a sequel, and that ironically kind of the same as this franchise. It got a theatrical sequel and then a direct to DVD sequel.
So where were you your first teen slasher? Was it Scream or was it this and then you found Scream?
Scream was my first teen slasher rented.
Okay.
But this was my first teen slasher theatrically.
All right.
And then Scream 2 was my next one, because it was Scream 2 came out about 2 months later. So, and like, I mean, this is like the peak of the 90s slasher craze was 1997.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was, I actually didn't watch a single Scream movie until I was in high school, because I really just did not have an interest. And even when I watched them, I was just like, I Know What You Did Last Summer was better. But they're like, the buddy that I watched it with too, he's like, you realize it's the same writer, right? And I'm like, well, not all of us make gold.
Let's talk about the writing on this movie real quick before we end this. Obviously, it's based off of the novel by Lois Duncan, written in the mid 70s, and I have the novel. I've read it, and honestly, Lois, great writer. She's written a lot of great teen thrillers. Don't get me wrong, but this is a case point where the movie far exceeds the source material. Like when I read, I was so excited to get the book after seeing this movie, and when I read it, I was like, wow, this is really boring. it's really boring.
Yeah.
So kudos to I know Lois Duncan is not a fan of the movie because she bitched and screamed that they turned it into a slasher, and I'm like, well, sorry, girlfriend, they did you a favor.
Yeah, you're not going to sell very many copies without the movie if your book is there.
Copies of your book blew up after this movie came out, so it's like, don't fully knock it.
And that's a benefit to some books too. There are like Harry Potter was huge already, and then they made the movies. But there's books like this, books like, weirdly enough, Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.
People claim they read the book before the movie ever came out, but there's not a lot of people. My uncle was one of those weirdos who was just like, you should read this. And I started reading it. I was like, this drags ass. Like, it is so fucking slow. And then I watched the movie and I was like, this is way better. Like, just show me the movie.
I feel about like Stephen King's Carrie. It's just like, it's a good book, but it's kind of a drag.
Yeah.
And, thank you, Brian De Palma, for making it awesome.
Yeah. That's King as a whole. That dude is long-winded with his words and really knows how to just, he'll write 50 pages about the color of grass. And you're like, all right, let's move this along. Yeah. But, all right, so I'm going to continue something I haven't done in the past few episodes because I keep forgetting, because it's normally something Jason Michael does. And I was reminded, like, hey, why aren't you doing this anymore? A rating scale. I keep forgetting to do the rating scale. So on a scale of 1 to 10 severed hands, what would you give this movie?
I mean, it's not without its very, very minimum flaws.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm gonna give it a 9.
All right.
9 severed hands.
There you go. I'm giving it an 8.5. I'm right there. I'm close. But it definitely holds its rewatch value, obviously. I own it on VHS. I own it on DVD. I need to get it on Blu-ray so I can get rid of the DVD.
They just came out with a new 4K for it, too.
I saw. I saw it. I was just like, oh, what a pretty cover. And I'm like, no, I can't right now.
It's a pretty cover, but I love the classic blue.
It's perfect. So we also like to end every episode with thank yous. Is there anyone you want to thank, anyone you want to shout out? Most importantly, plug everything you have going. You have so much going on.
Let me throw it out there, and then I'll wrap it up. So, well, first of all, big thank you to my best friend Corwin here, who was so kind to let me do this episode here and step away for a little bit. And then next big thank you, just everybody that's been following me, not only in the mermaid community, but now kind of, I guess, like my little resurgence here in the horror community now. So I get more and more horror people following me now. So I thank you all, to everybody, new and old, and just want to, and I would like to congratulate before I get off of here, the Fuzzy Monkey Films team, because we hit our goal for Crackoon and the forthcoming sequel, Crocodile. So that's going to be in production soon. So I just want to give a big congratulations to Brad Twig and everybody involved in Fuzzy Monkey and this production. And we can't wait for you to see Crackoon, definitely. And Crocodile's going to be even more crazier. I'm going to see if I can convince Brad to put a little nod to I Know What You Did Last Summer in this, so, because this is the aquatic one. So
that would be awesome.
And big thank you to you guys for letting me be on the show again and being a co-host this time.
No, thank you. Thank you for after the last, when we did the Scream episode, you were like, I want to come back, I want to do this. Jason Michael and I both immediately were like, we need Chris to come back. Like, we need him to come back. It was so much fun. We got so many messages. We're like, this guy knows his shit. I was like, you have no idea. Yeah. So when I reached out to you and I was like, I want you to come back, and then we brought this up, the timing could not have been better, especially seeing as the 4th is just 2 days away.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to having you back on for the sequel and for the other projects we have coming up. I'm so excited to have you back on. I also would like to just thank, I saw so many merfolk drop in on this live, and it's awesome to see.
Thank you guys.
That community is
For
here.
sucking it up, even if you're afraid of horror films. I appreciate you guys. This is also a big part of my life, the other half of my life. So I thank you guys for popping in.
That being said, I want to thank you at the top, like the most. Thank you so very much for being here. Thank you so very much for all of everything you've done, plugging tonight's episode and enjoying my ridiculous picture that I made tonight. But yeah, I also want to give the thank you out that I always give out, the biggest one, to JB, Jordan, and Bree from Camp Nightmare. Thank you guys so much. Spoiler Sleepover would not exist if it wasn't for you guys. I wouldn't know Jason Michael. The podcast wouldn't have started. I would never have met Chris O'Brocki because I would never have gone to Creature Feature Weekend. And I'm glad you came out this year. I mean, it took me being like, you should show up. No, you should definitely show up. You finally
and show up. I did.
You sure did. And thank you to everybody that's come in, merfolk, horror fans, our followers, new followers, hopefully. Thank you so much for viewing tonight. It means the world to me. So, Chris, thank you so very much.
You're welcome. Anytime.
I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Same here. And you guys just keep an eye out for the next couple of days on July 4th. So, and you'll see all the crazy stuff I'm going to be getting into in Southport, North Carolina. So
we'll be posting some pictures on our page, but please jump over and follow Merman Christian. Follow his page. He has his Mer life there and his horror life. So you can see his Scream stuff, everything. And his monthly view-alongs, like, watches all these stuff. So, all right, Chris, thank you so much. I love you, man, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, see you, bud.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, everybody, and until next week, sleep tight, suckers.